Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something I think a lot of you department heads will find super relevant. Data and how you use that data to make those big decisions,
Right.
how to gain that competitive edge. We're talking specifically about medium-sized American enterprises
Yeah.
and how they can use data. Well, kind of turning those raw numbers into a story that drives action. Some people call that business storytelling.
It's really interesting because, these days it seems like we're all drowning in data, but
Right.
the real challenge is how do we pull out those golden nuggets,
Yeah.
the real insights.
Absolutely.
And that's where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And let's face it, staring at a spreadsheet all day,
Right, yeah.
not very inspiring. So today we're going to explore a tool that can transform all that data into something a little more interesting, compelling visuals,
Yeah.
interactive dashboards. Imagine having like a real-time pulse on everything going on in your business, from sales trends to
Yeah.
employee engagement. And you don't even need a data science degree to understand it.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of Power BI, right? It can pull data from anywhere. Your spreadsheets,
Yeah.
cloud databases, marketing platforms, puts it all together and turns it into something you can actually use. And the best part, you don't need a huge IT budget
Right.
to make it work.
Okay, so less tech headaches, more insights. I
Yeah.
like where this is going.
Yeah.
But let's get a little more specific. What kind of visuals are we talking about here? Is it just like prettier bar graphs?
No, not just prettier bar graphs. We're talking about dynamic charts, interactive maps,
Right.
even geospatial visualizations.
Wow.
For example, let's say you're the head of sales. You can pull up a map of the U.S. and each region is colored by sales performance. Click on a region and boom, you see the top-selling products, the sales reps who are crushing it, maybe even some customer demographics.
Okay.
It's really about seeing the story behind the numbers.
Now, that's what I call actionable insights.
Yeah.
You mentioned real-time data, and I'm thinking for those of us who have to make decisions on the fly,
Yeah,
I bet that's a real game changer.
totally. Think about it. Instead of waiting for those monthly reports, you've got these live dashboards that are updating constantly. So let's say you're head of HR and you're tracking employee satisfaction.
Right.
With Power BI, you'll see dips in morale as they happen,
Wow.
correlated with maybe specific teams or projects,
Yeah.
and you can address issues before they become massive problems.
So it's about being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly.
Catching those small problems before they snowball. And I could see how that'd be a game changer, especially for departments that are dealing with constant change.
Yeah.
But how does Power BI handle digging deeper into the data?
Yeah.
What if you need more than just the surface level?
Right. Well, that's where the drill down feature comes in. Let's say you're the marketing director and you see website traffic from a specific campaign is down. You can click on that data point and see, okay, maybe it's a certain demographic that's not engaging
Yeah.
or a particular social media platform that's underperforming.
Yeah.
And that granular view helps you pinpoint the problem
Yeah.
and adjust your strategy.
So it's not just about pretty pictures. It's about having all that information right there at your fingertips. I can definitely see how that would be super valuable for anyone who needs to make, data-backed decisions.
Right.
But let's be realistic. Not every department has like a data analyst on staff.
True.
So how user-friendly is this for the average person?
One of the things that makes Power BI so revolutionary is how accessible it is. The interface is very intuitive with drag and drop functionality, and they even have a natural language query.
Oh, wow.
So you can type in a question like, what were our top performing products in the Midwest last quarter? And Power BI will make a visualization based on that question. You don't have to code or anything.
That's incredible. So no more bugging the IT department to pull reports.
Exactly. It's all about democratizing data analysis, empowering everyone from marketing to finance to explore the data, ask questions,
Yeah.
and find those aha moments that lead to better decisions. And you
Yeah.
know what? That brings us to a key point. And that key point is that, this data democratization thing we were talking about,
Yeah.
it has huge implications, especially for medium-sized enterprises. Imagine your marketing team can immediately see how their campaigns are performing.
Right.
Your operations team can track their supply chain efficiency in real time.
Wow.
Your finance department can keep an eye on cash flow. And nobody has to wait for IT to send them a report.
So it's about like breaking down those data silos.
Yeah.
And each department has the power to kind of own their data,
Exactly.
analyze it, make decisions based on what they see. Sounds great.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second. I know some people listening are thinking, okay, this all sounds fantastic, but how much is this going to cost me?
Right.
Is Power BI like some crazy expensive software that only these huge companies can afford?
I know, and that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to say it's surprisingly affordable,
Okay.
especially when you think about how much value you can get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There are different price levels to fit different needs.
Right.
They even have a free trial, so you can try it before you buy it.
Okay, so no need to break the bank to get started. Now, I'm a visual person, so I'd love to hear some real-world examples of how Power BI is actually making a difference.
Sure, I was just reading this case study about a manufacturing company. They were having all these issues with production bottlenecks.
Okay.
So they implemented Power BI to track all this data machine, downtime, production output, even employee efficiency.
Okay.
And it was really cool what they found. There was a pattern that a certain machine kept causing these delays, even though they were doing regular maintenance on it.
Oh, wow. So they were able to pinpoint a problem that they might not have even noticed otherwise.
Exactly. By visualizing the data, they uncovered this hidden problem that was costing them a ton of time and money. They figured out what was causing it, streamlined their production, and ultimately made things a lot more efficient.
That's a great example of how even something that seems kind of minor can have a ripple effect, especially when you're talking about like a complex manufacturing process.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who aren't working in like super data-intensive departments? Like what about legal or HR? Can Power BI be useful for us?
Oh, absolutely. It's super versatile.
Okay.
Take legal, for example. They can use Power BI to track their cases, see how much litigation is costing, even make sure they're complying with regulations,
Okay.
all in one place.
Yeah.
That kind of information is really valuable for managing risk and making strategic decisions.
Like having a bird's eye view of your whole legal situation.
Exactly. And HR can use it to analyze employee data, track talent acquisition costs,
Wow.
even see employee turnover rates, and identify any skill gaps they have.
Okay.
That helps them make smarter decisions about hiring, training, and developing their people.
It's not just about the numbers, then it's about understanding like the people behind the numbers.
Right.
And making decisions that are good for the individual and the organization.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really important part of data analysis that often gets overlooked: storytelling. Data on its own can be a bit overwhelming,
Right.
hard to make sense of it all. But when you can create a narrative around it, connect the dots, and present those insights in a compelling way, that's when it really comes alive.
I love that. It's like turning your data analysts into storytellers.
Exactly.
They're using charts and graphs as their words.
Right, think about it. A good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has characters, conflict resolution. You can use the same ideas for data storytelling. You set the scene, introduce the data, explain the problem you're trying to solve, and then use your analysis to come up with a solution.
Okay, so it's not just about showing people a bunch of numbers. It's about telling a story that engages them and inspires them to act based on those insights. But for those of us who are kind of new to this whole data storytelling thing, where do we even start?
Well, first you got to think about your audience. Who are you presenting to? What are their interests?
Okay.
What do they care about? How comfortable are they with data? Once you understand your audience, you can tailor your story to them.
It's about knowing who you're talking to and making sure your story resonates with them.
Exactly. And remember, keep it simple.
Right.
You don't want to overwhelm them with too much information or visuals that are too complicated. Focus on the key takeaways, the big aha moments that they'll remember.
So basically, distilling all that complex data into something clear, concise, and easy to understand.
Right. Think of it like you're a tour guide leading them through this data landscape.
Okay.
You want to point out the interesting landmarks, explain what makes them important, and keep them interested the whole time.
I like that. But let's get down to brass tacks. What are some tips for making those data presentations more engaging and impactful?
Well, first off, you need a strong hook. Just like a good movie grabs you right from the beginning.
Right.
Your data presentation needs to get your audience's attention right away. You could start with a thought-provoking question,
Okay.
a statistic that surprises them, or even a personal story that connects with them emotionally.
So basically get them curious and make them want to hear more.
Exactly. Once you've got their attention, you got to guide them through the data in a clear and logical way.
Okay.
Use visuals that are easy to understand. Don't be afraid to use color, icons, things like that to highlight the important stuff. It'll help them remember it better.
So turning data into something that's actually visually appealing and fun to look at.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of a good story. Connect the dots, explain why the numbers matter, use real-world examples, case studies, even a little humor to bring it to life. Make it something they can relate to.
It's about taking those cold, hard facts and turning them into something that actually speaks to people.
Exactly. And just like a good storyteller, you need to pace yourself. Don't overload them with too much information all at once.
Okay.
Break things down into bite-sized pieces. Pause, transition, give them some visual cues so they have time to process everything and stay focused.
So it's like creating a smooth flow that keeps them engaged.
Precisely. And lastly, don't forget about the call to action. What do you want them to do with this information?
Right.
Do you want them to approve a budget, change a strategy, or just walk away with a better understanding of the issue?
So turning those insights into action.
Exactly. By following these tips, you can take your presentations from dry technical reports to compelling stories that inform, inspire, and get results.
Okay.
And for those who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed, just remember, you don't have to become like a data visualization expert right away, just start small, experiment a little, and build up your skills over time.
Right.
There are tons of resources out there, like Microsoft has great training. There are online communities where you can talk to other people using Power BI.
Right. And you can even find books and blogs about data storytelling.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a whole world of support for anyone who's willing to dive in. And I like what you said about data being a language, because it really is. It's like the language of business these days.
Absolutely.
But just like any language, it takes practice to get good at it.
It does, yeah. And the better you get at understanding data, the better you'll be at communicating your ideas, persuading your stakeholders, and making real change in your organization.
So for all those department heads out there listening, I think this is the big takeaway. Don't let data scare you. Embrace it, explore it, and start creating your own data-driven stories.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at what you discover and the impact you can have.
I agree. It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about finding the stories hidden in those numbers.
Yeah.
And using them to shape the future of your business.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a little something to think about.
If data is the new language of business, what story are you going to tell?
That's a great question.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Power BI and data storytelling.
Yeah.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise. I really enjoyed it.
To all our listeners out there, remember this is just the beginning. Take what you've learned, check out those resources, and start turning your data into actionable insights. Until next time, keep diving deep.